I am delighted to speak with you today about women as unique change makers in first responder safety culture. My name is Jennifer Taylor, and I am director of the Center for Firefighter Injury Research and Safety Trends, the FIRST Center, at Drexel University's School of Public Health in Philadelphia. On our website, you can see all of the research programs we are involved in and the tools we've developed for the fire and rescue service, from our safety culture tool to our tool on stress and violence to our new program looking at the mental health impacts of COVID-19. We also have a publications tab where you can go and download every paper we've written with the fire service for free. We publish everything open access, and you can read the words of your brothers and sisters as they go through safety challenges and what they have to say about the changing nature of your profession. The management team of the FIRST Center are all women. That's not necessarily by design, but it just happens to be a happy occurrence. And we have all kinds of students who work with us, but being a female-led research institute that works with a predominantly male industry is just super fun and has never been a problem for us. We have a program we run in the summer called the Fire Fellows. And the mission of the Fire Fellows is to train the next generation of fire service researchers. And so as you can see in these images, so many of the students who have come through this program are women. There are some men, and there are lots of cohorts that have incredible racial, ethnic, socioeconomic, and sexual orientation and gender identity representations. We want you to know that there are students out there in the world that are concerned about you and your health and safety. You know your profession is a high-risk one. Nothing new there. But one of the interesting statistics we have is the rates of non-fatal injuries between men and women. And this has been persistent over time in the United States, that women have a much lower risk of non-fatal injury than men. And part of the explanation for this is the socialization of women and how they look at the world, what their worldview is, especially when it comes to risk. And that's why it's really important to include gender and the capture of gender data elements, including sexual orientation and gender identity, in research, because gender theory actually helps us explain the social dynamics in occupational settings. And this is rarely done. We know from feminist theory and gender studies that masculine performance is counter to our ideas of healthfulness and safety. Risk aversion and seeking healthcare are seen as feminine traits. And so men, seeing those traits as feminine, may be less likely to seek care for their illnesses and injuries as a way to distinguish themselves from women. And this idea of risk perception being different among women and those who identify as women has largely been talked about as a difference of how women are socialized, but there's so much that goes into risk perception from the literature. Our gender, our race, our worldview, our age, our health status, and the social context in which we live and work. Hypermasculinity is a thing in this industry. It's part of a firefighter's image and this idea of heroism. But with over 23 million calls, 60% on average of which are EMS calls. EMS involves medical treatment, listening and counseling patients, and these are generally considered feminine traits. So for me as a scientist, when I think about the changing nature of fire service work and the fact that most of it is caring and healthcare, I am often left to wonder, why aren't there more women? If these are seen as feminine traits or things that women are particularly good at for other reasons other than just femininity and socialization. So we've been looking at this at the FIRST Center. This is a paper that we published with various fire departments around the country called Ladders and Lifting: How Gender Affects Safety Behaviors in the Fire Service. And we've learned about what being female or identifying as female means when it comes to thinking about safety at work. And so in this study, we found that compared to men, women weigh risks and benefits of dangerous situations differently and more thoroughly. They focus on biomechanics and technique for the physical tasks they must do. They ask for help. They are motivated to report injuries. And they are often the recipients of harassment and hostility in the work. These things all together either make safety happen and emerge within a fire department or bury it. Let's talk a little bit more about those. So weighing risk and benefits. This participant said, I just said, we're backing out. And oh my gosh, my crew said, you're letting this building burn down? You're right, because the insurance company will be able to rebuild it. I can't rebuild you. And so the cultural part, hopefully everybody starts to accept that, the risk versus gain here. This ties into ergonomics and how women react to it. There are smarter ways to go about doing things, and I think that's an element that women add to it. Because what if you're not 6'4" and 225 pounds? I mean, like a football team, everybody has a position, and there are a variety of sizes that fit the position. We have heard time and time again from female firefighter and EMS responders that men often feel relieved when there's a woman on the crew, either because she can de-escalate tense situations or she thinks differently about the physical tasks at hand. Here's an example. There's a culture of guys, they don't want to ask for help. And so when I'm on a call, I'll say, let's do a 4-point on this. I'll just interject. And you can see the relief on their faces, but they would never ask for it themselves. Younger in my career, I never would either. I would never ask for help because I didn't want to be that girl. But now I have no problem. Injury reporting. We know that in occupational safety and health, illnesses and injury reporting is low and always underreported. And in traditionally male-dominated industries, that can drive that underreporting. Do women report more? And that's what we see in a lot of our data, is that women are more likely to report injuries. Here's a quote as to why that may be. Men are just going to power right through it. And when they get hurt, they're going to say, I don't want to say something that'll make me look weak or stupid. Whereas women are more like, I want to make sure I'm covered. So if I really truly get hurt, I'm going to be taken care of. And this is an example, whether it's backing out of a building because there's nothing to save and you could really get hurt, or reporting your injuries so that your benefits follow. Women, and in this case, this woman was a single mom. If she got hurt on the job, she needed to make sure that her family still received benefits from work. And so women are not just thinking about themselves. They're not just running in and hitting the problem and fighting the dragon. They are thinking about themselves, their crew, and their families. Harassment, a dark spot on all of the things that we found in this particular study, where we were looking at how do women make a difference. Well, one of the things that can shut down voice in women is something that you've all experienced and you know so well, and that's harassment. So Joan said, my last straw there was a lieutenant that kept touching me and he finally slapped my butt, and the chief told me, oh, he's just joking. You got to learn to deal with that. That was the answer for everything. It was kind of pointless bringing stuff up, so I just learned to keep my mouth shut. But there were times I actually went home sick, crying from work because it was ridiculous. So how do we make work work for women? One of the ways the First Center really strategizes is through policies, procedures, and practices, creating no tolerance policies for hostile work environments and harassment, providing policies for maternity leave and return to work after childbirth, especially around things like breastfeeding. Thinking about how we hire people into fire and rescue service departments, how we retain them when they meet some of these harassing and hostilities. And this is how we get to a diverse, equitable, and inclusive fire service. And that creates safety. There is so much literature on how diverse teams are better problem solvers, have better safety outcomes, have lower workers' comp costs. And this is the future of the fire service. And it's not just here in the United States. This is Harshini Kanhakar, who was the first woman to graduate from the National Fire Service College in Nagpur, India. She said, no field of work belongs to any gender. A bike, for example, doesn't know if a man or a woman is riding it. So a male-dominated or female-dominated profession is a myth. If you love something and are passionate about it, do it. You live once, so push yourself to make the best of it. Don't stop chasing your dreams. Thank you so much, my friends. I look forward to the rest of this wonderful conference.